What's up, everybody? It's Make It Make Sense, and I have been promising this open panel, so I'm just keeping my promise, y'all. Like the video as the intro plays, because this is gonna get interesting. I'm a little nervous.
I was listening to Make It Make Sense. Shout out to Make It Make Sense. Thank you.
Make it make sense to me intellectually.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. You know what was up.
I ain't got it.
Big moves.
Surfer.
Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense. Tell me how you squeeze it. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things that you say. Make it make sense. Tell me about the things of your dream. Hey, let me work out all the things in between. Make it make sense.
Swallowed up.
Swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up?
No, my bad. I'm sorry. My bad.
Okay, y'all. So before I open, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link. Anybody can click the link. It's an open panel night. Whether you agree with the exposés, whether you disagree, whether you're a member of the church and kind of want to come out and talk about how it makes you feel. This is for y'all. The only thing I ask is that you kind of remain respectful. That's it. Let's start with respect and disrespect. I'm a content creator who really prides myself on telling you guys to keep me honest. With that being said, keep me honest in a respectful way, because I try to be as respectful with y'all. Sometimes I might meet you where you're at if you're not respectful like I am of y'all. And that happened today multiple times. And I really don't to do that, but certain things really don't bother me. One subscriber made a joke about my Shannon Sharp video today. She's somebody who I've seen in my chats forever. She was like, I think you got a crush on Shannon Sharp. I thought that was funny. You didn't have to edit your comment. That doesn't bother me. If you talk about the way I look, it doesn't bother me. If you talk about my clothes being fake, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me at all. Even this was a good one. This was in response to the Shannon Sharp video. So if his sexuality is his own business, why are you doing a story on it? Seems like you're using it for views. I responded, I do commentary on what's out there. If you watch the video, I explained how I found out about what people were saying to Shannon and why I believe they were doing it. They came back and said, I understand what you're saying and I did listen, but do you realize that your story pushes that narrative? I like your channel, but was disappointed in this story. In this situation, I do commentary. It's okay. I mean, in the sense that I don't make the news. This is all over the blogs, and there are millions and millions of views on TikTok, YouTube, where people talking about it. My Shannon Sharp video was me actually being angry. I was upset. I was mad. I did not like what people were doing to him. And then I definitely did not like what Hollywood had done to Kerry Rhodes. So I was angry. You guys got me to, you got to see a rant from me. I don't typically go off on rants, but there's just certain things. I didn't like what that dude did to Shawnee. You heard me go off on that. I did not like what Hollywood did to Kerry Rhodes. I don't respect that. So that's really what you got to see. But I can appreciate you guys who give me constructive criticism. This one was not constructive. This dude said, you have no masculine energy, bro. Real taking, but it not my business. So I responded to him, you can't spell or formulate a complete sentence, but that's not my business. That's for the school system that failed you. I don't really like having to do that. But, you know, sometimes it is what it is. It is what it is. So I appreciate the people that come and give me constructive criticism. I had to really think about what that other guy was saying. And I'm like, for me, I still consider myself just Mims. I haven't technically really acknowledged that my platform has grown. So I come out and I speak freely. And, you know, one of my content creator friends always tells me I can't stay under the radar anymore. I still like that's my preference. I don't know how else to say it. That's the preference. So when people say things like that, I get that it's constructive criticism and I'm cool with that. Measurement, yes, people do want you to come up because apparently you were saying a lot in the chat and people had some stuff to say. Bonji, I see you back there. I'm gonna let you up in like a couple minutes. So y'all keep me honest. Just make sure that you're as respectful to me as I am to you. Somebody I think was kind of upset that I said that Hollywood could play Celie in The Color Purple. I never said that I wasn't shady. I said that I was shady, but fair. If he, you know, gets wind of this video and he feels away, then for everything else I said about him, I stand on it. But saying that he was who he could play Celie in The Color Purple, I would take that back. But that's it. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking, or y'all are going to be talking in this open panel situation about all of this stuff. TD Jakes, Keion Henderson, Eddie Long, my interview. If you guys have questions about the interview that I did, we'll see. Bonji, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I was pissed a little earlier, but I'm good now. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was happy to add to your on your Insta to say no child left behind, left people behind. With that guy who couldn't spell. Oh yeah.
So what do you, I mean, again, guys, I have dropped the link. Anybody can come up. Where are you at? Because there's a lot of exposés. I'll start with TD Jakes. When the TD Jakes stuff came out, I was less concerned about his sexuality and more concerned about him allegedly grooming somebody. But I was talking to someone today who is like a very religious person, and she said if it's true, she feels a way about a pastor being gay potentially and being a married gay pastor. And I was like, okay. For me, it was the grooming, alleged grooming. But where do you stand with all this?
I agree with you. The grooming is what makes it problematic. His same gender loving activities are a problem for his church or his ministry that's followed around the world because of how he is America's pastor right now. I think he has met with every sitting president since the Bush administration. So he's looked at in church circles and even in secular circles as somebody who is leading the charge when it comes to Christianity and in America. And in the past, whenever there have been questions about, for example, the LGBTQIA issue, they go and ask him because they know that whatever answer he gives, it will be an answer from somebody that people want to hear from. But the problem here is the underlying problem for me is we're putting pastors on a pedestal and in some instances forgetting that these people are human beings who can who are not perfect and will live lives in a way as if a human being who can be one complex
Mhm.
True, not the same in every setting, but in the church especially, there is a very serious problem where if someone is not leading their lives as maybe
As they're
in a
preaching on the
positive,
pulpit,
huh?
as they're preaching on the pulpit, they're not living the way that they preach.
Yes, then there's a problem. And yet, I am
And
thinking,
who might
depending on how, huh?
who might you be describing?
Me, but I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal. You
Because I'm looking at it from the first time I ever heard him preach was when he traveled from here to South Africa in the early 90s,
Mhm.
and he traveled with an entourage. Um, I learned a lot about how much money they require to actually preach outside the US, and you're talking about developing countries. So when I started hearing um, that he was at the freak offs parties, that didn't seem to fit with the TG that is known in not only the black church but in white churches as well. And then when I saw the video of swallowed up, have you been swallowed? Yeah, I can't get that one out of my head, to be honest with you, because because um was he preaching? What was he doing? Or was he just um
He was
imitating
preaching.
how people get swallowed up?
He was no. I watched the sermon. What I will say about this, because that's not necessarily my religion. I felt like outside of him addressing the rumors,
Mm-hmm.
I can understand how he leads a church. It was very impassioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did
Mm-hmm.
have the swallowed up thing. It's probably not the smartest thing to say at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can understand for people who are part of his congregation how he
Mm-hmm.
could be impactful. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that it was some of the things that he said were inspiring when he was preaching.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, I see you in here. Nicole, Miss Nicole, for some reason it says your device is not connected. That's the only reason why. It says they will need to connect their mic or cam before you can add them to the stream. So if you don't want to be on camera, that's fine, but you need to make sure that your mic is on. Tony, jump in. This is y'all's video.
Well, I could. I guess I don't know where to start. For a lack of better words, so I'm measured man. So I'll start it there, right?
Oh wait, hold on. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I was trying to make sure my pizza was I don't technically know everything that you were saying, but people were DMing me after my video on Shawnee saying that you had some inside stuff or you had a personal relationship with Keion Henderson or you didn't like him or something.
I'm not gonna say, I don't like Keon. I think he's a good person. But I do know that there's a lot of things, one, that's in that book that's not true, right? And that's to include his father in the church. And I can speak to that. I have papers to speak to that, which is why he and his siblings, alleged siblings, don't get along, right?
I didn't know
Keon,
that siblings don't get along.
I know for a fact that that is why he wasn't at his alleged father's homegoing, right? But Keon and my sister grew up in Gary, Indiana for 15 years, about 15, 17 years, lived 2 doors down in the projects, right?
Why would he need to lie? Sorry, really quick. Why would he need to lie about his I was personally touched by the story of what he went through, being that his mom was a Bonji, where'd you go? Being that his mom was, I guess, the mistress to the pastor, the married pastor of the church, and then even after she had 2 babies by him, she stayed in the church. my heart went out to him. Are you saying that that was not the truth?
It's partial the truth, right? And it's a lot. I can only really say so much because there are some things that we do have going on some other fronts. But I think the bigger part is to understand he's not telling the entire story. It's what looks good for public persona. So if you look back about maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, we did an expose on VH1 and Shawnee O'Neal, right? And it's called the guilt by association. This is all an elaborate scam because of the image of when they first produced Flavor of Love, right? Of a 10-year study of the Black community on reality TV and decided they needed a face for reality ratchet TV. And they approached Shawnee O'Neal, and she sold out and signed a $20 million check. Google it, go to academia. We've never been sued. We know all of this to be fact.
Who's academia? Who's academia?
Academia is close to Purdue. It's a very
It's a school.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay. So because we saw the demise of the Black community. And so with VH1 Flavor of Love, after it was such a hit, there was Charm School, and I think I Love New York.
Wait, but what does this have to do with Keon? Okay, so I didn't get to see all of your messages, but a lot of people were saying that it felt like you had something personal with Keon, not necessarily Shawnee.
No. Well, so the thing with Keon, again, which is fine. Like ironically, my sister was in the military, ended up landing in Houston. She landed in Houston and became friends with Felicia. Felicia is the first lady.
The very first one.
The very first lady.
And what's the name of the second first lady of Keion Henderson's?
She's missing, but I don't want to say her name. But she's missing. She's the one with the restraining orders and a couple other things. If you Google that, but I think they sealed the cases on both of them.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry.
I know it's a lot.
Wait, okay. I'm trying to, because I did a mini deep dive on Keion Henderson. As I understand it, Felicia is
the first lady.
Right. I don't know anywhere where Keon got married a second time. I was told that the second lady.
You won't find it.
So you're saying that the second lady who has a restraining order out against Keion Henderson, is it this? Rachel Bell, you're saying that she actually married him?
Rachel Bell. No, that's not the correct name.
Okay, but your sister's friends with Felicia, the one who had a show.
Closet chats and all. Absolutely.
So you're privy to some things that went on behind the scenes, and that's why maybe you're not necessarily a fan of
Absolutely. Keon. Because it wasn't until years later, after having conversations with my sister, I didn't realize who she was having this conversation with a girlfriend that she really didn't know how to get out of until later. Mind you, I'm already attending the church. I'm a member of the church. And that's when the Ernest Pugh and all of this stuff broke out. And I began to become aware.
So you have to talk to us like we don't.
Okay,
we're not.
I'm sorry. Okay, so Ernest Pugh is a gospel artist who was the minister of music for the Lighthouse Church in Houston.
Okay.
So there was an alleged scandal, right, where Keon and Ernest were in a relationship for quite some time.
Never heard of this scandal. Okay.
Okay. So when they separated, Ernest ended up suing the church, got a very good settlement, a gag order, and moved on his merry way, right?
Oh, no, again, I didn't know any of this, and all of these things are alleged. It's important for me to say that
Alleged, yes. Okay.
the thoughts and opinions of Tony are not necessarily those of the Make It Make Sense brand. FYI. Okay, so your sister is friends with Keon's wife, who he left around the same time that
She signed a prenup too, though, just FYI.
I'm just helping people kind of understand where you're coming from because they didn't know. So your sister is personal friends with his first wife, the one that he filed for divorce soon after Shawnee started doing speaking events at the church.
Yeah, 2 weeks after the last closet chat.
You were around for a scandal that allegedly happened between Keon and a music minister that you feel was settled out of court. Correct. So are you feeling betrayed? Okay, now I'm kind of understanding, Tony. So are you feeling somewhat betrayed if these allegations are true and he's your pastor?
Correct. Well, I left the church, and the majority of us have, just because of that. The church turned into a fashion show and a reality show once he began to date Shawnee. I mean, there were cameras, there were limousines, there were, little Uzi bumping in the church. You heard me, little Uzi.
They were playing Uzi. Okay.
Yes. So we left. A lot of us left. And I live in between both Houston and Stone Mountain, Georgia. So I left New Birth as well. So for me,
you were a member. Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Again, you're speaking for the people who don't know. You were a member of Eddie Long's church as well, is what you're saying.
Correct. Exactly. Now you get where my personal, where I come from, right? So I ended up leaving the church in general when the Shawnee and Ernest Pugh and all of this stuff. I was like, I'm done. I didn't leave God, but I left the church because.
Let me ask you this, Tony. Were you actually a member of New Missionary when Eddie Long was there?
No, I came in right at the end of it and was hoping for change, but kind of didn't work out. Like
when they made Jamal Bryant the pastor.
But I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
Okay. So, I mean, guys, this is what I wanted. I wanted people to come up who are members of these churches or have some type of, who feel that everybody does need to get exposed and or who feel as though maybe the church is under attack. That's what we want, right? So please continue, Tony. So you feel betrayed personally by Keon. You left the church. You felt like it was turning into a reality show.
Absolutely.
What were some of the things you were specifically saying in the chat? Because people were telling me, Mims, why didn't you drop the link for Tony?
Well, I'll tell you. So there was a story, and I'll say allegedly, right, where I think I can't think of his name, Sir Williams or someone spoke about a TD Jakes and getting Daryl Patrick, rest his soul, being kicked off of a plane, right? But what that was a conference called the Gideon Project. This was a project put together by TD Jakes. The people on that plane was TD Jakes, Daryl Patrick, Keion Henderson, and Dwayne Dawkins. We all know where Dwayne Dawkins is, right? So something transpired where Thomas Dexter allegedly didn't like, and that's when Daryl Patrick was kicked off the plane between the four of them. This is a project you can go back and Google that was actually done in between Dallas and Las Vegas. The only reason that I know of, and I would say a part of this, because at the time, a conversation later between my sister and previous first lady, she was in an uproar of not knowing what to do because the things that began to come to her. And that's why she's under a gag order. I'm not. I'm not. And so again, it's not venom towards Keon. It's not venom towards the Lighthouse Church. It's a part of the manipulation and deception. That's the part I have a problem with. I don't care if you like X, Y, and Z, but you are playing on people's spiritual emotions and intelligence, and that's where I draw the line.
Really quickly, Thais, come up. I dropped the link. This is an open panel for anybody. Clement says, "You sure you ain't left God up here gossiping about a subject you seem to know nothing about?" So I get a lot of messages like this. That's why I had a whole open panel situation so people could come up and say how they feel. Like, this is where we're at this point. People are getting exposed. Some people are getting exposed, and there are no receipts. That's how you have a full body conversation. If I wanted to come up here and just give commentary on something I saw, that's what I would have done. But you guys asked for an open panel, and that's what I'm doing. So Clement and anybody else who may not agree with what's been going on, I definitely want you to come up. Like, that's how we have these kind of conversations. I'm not offended.
Me either.
It is what it is. But yeah, anybody's welcome to come up and share how you feel. If you've been a member of this church and you feel betrayed, okay, talk about it. If you're a member of the church and you're going to stand by your pastor until there's more definitive facts, come up. This is not a shooting range. We're open to conversation and dialogue. You know what I mean?
Hey, Mims.
Hey, what's up?
Did you listen to Larry Reed's latest
What do you say?
He was talking about you know how he will say he has information, and then he says whenever he gets information, he sends some of that information to TD's
yes, he sent it to the
crisis,
camp.
whatever.
Yes,
So in this case, he said by end of the month, which I would assume if not this week, maybe next week, that several lawsuits are being filed. He doesn't know if it's going to be 2 or 3, but there are definitely 2 individuals working on lawsuits. And he said those lawsuits will have very detailed information similar to what was included with Cassie's complainant when she took hers to federal court as well. And
I'm a little confused by I no, this is just me being honest. I've reported on some of the stuff that Manasa said.
Yes.
And Larry Reed. My question, I don't know Larry, but if I were able to actually speak to him, my question would be if a alleged survivor of grooming or whatever else comes to you, why would you connect them to the alleged assailant?
Perpetrator.
Right. I don't understand. I've never actually spoken to Larry. Maybe I'll DM him one day. I don't understand. Heart of Inspiration, come up. You're welcome. It's open panel day.
Yeah, I don't understand that either, because it's as if these individuals are coming to him and telling him what happened. In Manasseh's case, he says he's known about this for a long time, but he himself, he said he would never bring it to the forefront, but rather if somebody else reports on it, then that's when he's going to report on it. And another thing that he said was the grooming part of the conversation is, I didn't realize how prevalent this grooming was in in churches and in ministries as big as T.D. Jakes, Benny Hinn, because Manasseh, I think, worked with Benny Hinn and also worked with T.D. Jakes. And Manasseh's whole point is that um, he actually showed Larry some correspondence, including text messages as well as I think emails. And Larry actually showed some photos.
Yeah,
Of,
we reviewed that on the channel. We definitely
mhm,
did review that on the channel. Larry has said that he has like a lot of screenshots and everything.
mhm,
Somebody wants to know what is grooming. In this situation, it was somebody in power
mhm.
who used their authority to kind of coerce someone into something that they otherwise would not have done.
Yes.
That's what we would consider the grooming. I just don't know. I don't know. Like with the Diddy lawsuit, it was very clear.
Mhm,
There was abuse. There was the R word.
mhm.
In this situation, I don't technically know how you sue somebody for if there was never any physical touch, unless you can sue for like maybe emotional distress. I have questions. I definitely have questions. Not that I don't believe Manasseh. Um, I believe Manasseh. I just don't know where the lawsuit will go. But D Johnson, definitely jump in, and Heart of everybody jump in. It's
No,
Hey,
but,
man.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just chiming in really quick. I just want to add in, not as someone who's personally connected to any of these churches or any of these pastors, but more so someone who is a millennial and also someone who was formerly religious, now spiritualist. Um, I think there's a big issue within the church when it comes to focusing on getting that connection with millennials and younger generations and connecting with us to real issues, but more so acknowledging their bad behavior. I think the church, the Black church specifically, is doing a really bad job of just admitting that there are a lot of bad apples in this bunch.
Oh, yeah,
Personally,
the Catholic Church too. I'm
yeah,
Catholic, and there was a lot of cover-ups.
yep. I'm now 31, and I can say someone who hasn't been in a church in probably almost a decade now, that recently in the last like 2 years, I had a conversation with some of my family members who are still part of the church in which we were affiliated when I was younger, and come to find out one of the deacon that I was like put with when I was younger ended up going to jail recently because he was sexually molesting his granddaughter who was disabled. And it would just really goes to show like you really don't know these people when they go home. You really don't know what's going on. And I can probably name almost any person who has been religious or is religious in my life who can give you a story where it's someone who's being inappropriate in the church and there's no one actually really checking those people. It's a lot of almost pushing those members out of the church to kind of keep everything hush versus, hey, let's acknowledge this bad behavior. Let's actually focus on this person and how can we remove that person. But it seems like the church really kind of focuses in on like, let's give these people a reward. I also want to kind of chime in before I get out about one of the biggest fights that I've had in my family was probably about 3 or 4 years ago during Thanksgiving, and the whole big John Gray scandal came out. And I had a big fight with my family discussing how there was so much evidence about John Gray, but because they were religious, they couldn't see past the sheer fact, like all of this evidence showing that he's cheating on his wife, all of the evidence. And for some reason, my family members almost attacked me because I was attacking. I wouldn't even consider attacking, but just bringing up the sheer fact, like this man is cheating on his wife. And this person is supposed to be focusing on being a marriage counselor to others while cheating on other people. And it's kind of strange how I feel like Black church people almost feel like MAGA people sometimes. And I feel like sometimes we need to kind of unwork that behavior at times, because we all have faith and belief in God. But I feel like there are a lot of religious people, specifically older religious people, who see their pastor or bishop as God himself versus seeing him as a man who is working, well, God is working through, I should say.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it's all Catholic priests have a propensity for that. I wouldn't say it's all Black churches.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that I would, kind of push back on what you said. Other than that, I agree that families, churches, a lot of times people do try to cover up. And, I think that's why it's good that people are now speaking truth to power. I think with the advent of the internet and then the social media, it's much more difficult for people to get away with what they were getting away with in the 70s, 80s, and even probably the 90s. Because the minute something happens, it's like that. We all know about it and we're all talking about it.
Can I say something and get off? My internet is not doing well. I keep being kicked out.
Oh, sure.
One thing I want to say is that as the church, and I'm a believer, we have a way of handling certain subjects as if those subjects or behaviors do not occur outside the four walls of the church. And I'm especially talking about the LGBTQIA plus issues, because we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that some individuals who are serving in these churches, be it, for example, I'll throw one denomination out, the Church of God in Christ. It's recorded, and I know for a fact that some grad students have done studies on looking at what number of, let's say, church ministers live an openly gay lifestyle. We know they do because of who they are, but we then don't look at the LGBTQ lifestyle as something that should be accepted within the four walls. So when I'm thinking of for example, TD and some of the things that have already been said about him, and potentially some of the evidence that's going to come in these lawsuits that are going to be filed, I'm interested to see whether the response to him will be different from the response that the church gave to Ed Long, because he went to his grave
denying,
not having been asked. Okay, so he said he was going to fight it. So how was he going to fight it? And what lastly, another thing that really concerns me is,
wait, hold on. You said Eddie Grave went to his grave doing what, Banji?
He went to his grave having said that he was going to fight it.
Oh, meaning
but
he
never did fight it.
He never actually had to answer for any of the allegations because all of the boys were paid off.
Yes.
The settlement. Okay.
Yes. And so
and then they threw Jamal Bryant in.
I know. Jamal, these hoes, and
but I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
And neither are you. And neither are you, sir.
So I'm interested.
Oni said they were playing Uzi Vert in Potter House. I mean, in
they be dropping it and everything, dropping it for Jesus. You know,
it's the whole club.
It's a new day, I guess.
Okay. Oh, somebody said there was another pastor before Jamal. I'm sorry.
For you who are familiar with Keon's ministry, Larry said something which piqued my brain, and my eyes were like on alert. He didn't say more, but he said there was a time where a photo of Keon with another male was making its rounds on blogs, and
Oh, God didn't want her to finish that.
Mhm.
That was unsubstantiated. I that was unsubstantiated. But yeah, you guys can jump in. What's up, Hart and Coco?
Hey, it's interesting because right, I was just talking about this last night, and actually, as a result of your video earlier, I was going to do another video too because you brought up a lot of things that I'm like, yep, we don't talk about this. So I want to clear up a couple things that I heard said. Um, Benny Hinn or alluded to, Benny Hinn has never been accused of grooming anyone because there's a discussion about Manasseh working with Benny Hinn, and then after he did his stint, his understudy, I guess you could call it, with Benny Hinn, his mentorship, then went to TD Jakes.
I don't think that I don't know if somebody up here said that, but I believe that a story was told that Benny Hinn kept trying to like buy Manasseh something, and Manasseh's father kept saying, "Don't take anything from him." Like he would say, "Oh, that's a nice ring." The story I think Manasseh told was he was on Rodeo Drive with Benny Hinn, and he saw a ring, and Benny was going to buy it, and his father was like, "Don't let that man buy you anything." And then there was something else on a private jet.
Correct. However, having worked with that ministry, there's a lot of ministries I've worked with over the years. I've been in this game 25 years now.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been ever anything stated. I've been around
like that,
right.
Gotcha.
You know, have I seen Benny Hinn purchase things for people? And I've seen that. I've seen him give the rings off his fingers to people, to ministers in different cities and stuff that he wasn't even working with. So, and I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm just putting that out there. I've also, though, seen a number of these ministers that are being talked about and some that are not yet being talked about that probably should. I have seen them groom. I have seen them intimate and harass, and male or female, especially if you're up and coming, especially if you have a prophetic gift or you have a gift of healing, you have to what? I have seen it with my own eyes. And I can tell you there's more that's covered up than you all will ever, than some people, I'm not going to say you all, will ever possibly ever imagine. And when these things come out, there's going to be a lot of people that are still not going to believe it because it's easier for us to not believe that these people that we have elevated, that are still human beings, that we have elevated to the level of deity and that have allowed themselves to be elevated to the level of deity. And as someone who's stood behind that pulpit and spoken to thousands and ministered to thousands and laid hands on thousands, I know how intoxicating that level of power can be. It is truly intoxicating, especially when all of a sudden you have millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars coming, especially when you have everybody, all of a sudden, now you are a celebrity and you are treated as such everywhere. There's a level of respect, and sometimes I think it goes beyond that. It goes to worship of you. So also, then you put on top of all of that, to me, when you become power drunk at some point, there's probably no really rich person, really powerful person that doesn't kind of do other deviant things. If you think that your pastors and your apostles and your bishops and your prophets and prophetesses are not deviants, some of them, not all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would hope that it's not all. I mean,
not all. No, but I probably more than some people would like to think.
So you're saying you can personally vouch for the type of person you feel Benny Hinn is because you've been in his space.
Correct.
Okay.
I can just say what I've seen with my own eyes and what I've not seen, what I've heard with my own ears from people that I trust and what I've not heard. That I've never heard. Maybe fooling around with, women every now and again. Completely consensual. Consensual. No. I'm not talking about grooming.
Wait, that was
not expected.
I did not expect you. I'm thinking you're gonna say maybe a traffic ticket. Okay. I never heard anybody's. I thought you were gonna say something small, not that he was stepping outside of his marriage or relationship.
I mean, okay, but we have to remember these people are human. And again, those are rumors. I never witnessed that. Those are rumors. But I mean, if you look at any of the studies, if you look at any study, you will find there's a very high percentage of pastors that are addicted to adult content.
Mm-hmm.
There's pastors that are addicted to different pain medications or alcoholics behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
There are pastors that are just general, addicts of adult behavior, period.
But I gotta tell you, these hoes ain't loyal.
But it happens more than you think. The reality is most people that stand behind that pulpit on Sunday morning or Wednesday night read their Bible less than you.
Yes, that's true.
And I can tell you for fact they read their Bible less than you. And some of the same sin that they're preaching against and telling you not to do on Sunday morning, they just did it Saturday night. There was somebody that asked me a long time ago when I was still preaching. They were like, "Why do you never preach against fornication?" I said, "Because I fornicated the night before I got here and I'm going to fornicate when I leave. I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to do something that I'm going to do." You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just ridiculous. Why would I do that? That's hypocritical. Right?
But then you do it all the time.
I can speak for myself. I grew up with a very, very religious grandmother. She, like, during the summertime, we were going to church with her Monday through Friday, and then at least Saturday or Sunday. That's how I grew up. I was an altar boy. So I had a pretty close relationship with the main priest at my church. I went to Catholic school. I am a glass half full kind of person. So I really, when I see and I hear things, sometimes it low key kind of like breaks my heart, because I do put a lot of faith in people just because that's just how I was raised. And I but
but you're not wrong.
You want to believe in the good in people for sure.
Exactly. And nobody is wrong for that. I'm going to take what I'm going to say is, being one that has been, again, ordained for 25 years, the onus is on us to resist the deification, to resist the worship, to remind the people and ourselves that we are still yet human. That, to me, you begin to believe your own press. You begin to believe you can walk on water. You can begin to believe you can turn water into wine. And while I might say you probably can, but my point is this, is you believe all this and you're getting all this adoration and all of this publication and all of this celebration. And then at some point, and then don't get starting to hang out with people that are in the world, because they're like, "Oh, pastor, oh, bishop, you bless me so much." And then all the lines start to get blurred. We never would have heard about this had we not heard about Diddy, and not because, whatever, but because then it starts to surface, well, who's Diddy hanging out with? And then the rest of it starts to surface. Do you understand?
No, I get it. You guys know me. I'm a realistic person, but that doesn't mean that I don't sometimes think, well, damn, I wish that it had not gone that way. Right? Like, it's not a jump to hear the stories about Diddy. He's branded himself as a 50-something-year-old party boy, and all that. That's not a jump. But that's why I wanted to hear from people who were members of the Potter's Church, to actually get like a better understanding of, you're in this space now. This isn't us doing a case study on Eddie Long. This is you now. And he still has 50 or 60,000 people watching him. And even I have watched some of the sermons to get a better understanding of who he is as a pastor. I try to educate myself on things. Queen Sheba points out, Mims, that's why I haven't covered it, because there's no proof against TD Jakes. That's fair and valid. What I do in my commentary is I cover those things that are out there, but I try to do it in a way that is true to myself. So for me, who he's with is not an issue. The alleged grooming is. You know, if there is a court case, Larry, somebody just said that Larry said maybe by the end of the month we'll see at least a couple court cases. I'll definitely pull those like I always do, but that is fair, Queen Sheba. She's she says I followed him since age 18. Okay, so you're a member. That would be, if you want to come up, you're more than welcome to do so, to talk about what the experience feels like for somebody who is hearing these scandalous things but still has faith in who he is and feels as though nothing will come out. I would love to hear your standpoint. Really quickly, Coco Nicole, I want to hear from you, but I want to say this. I did an interview with one of Eddie Long's accusers a couple days ago now. Time kind of flies. And a lot of people had things to say about the interview. What I liked about the interview was we got to actually hear from somebody who was there. And from my vantage point, we got to see somebody who is still in the process of healing. There were things that he said. And at one point I had to say, are you comfortable with me being very direct with you? And he said, yes. And I was like, I can hear there are things. Have you gone to therapy? And he said, no, I've not been to therapy since any of this happened, and I don't have any intention. I'm a proponent for therapy, but I'm also a person who understands that that's not for everybody. But from my vantage point, I saw a young man who was still healing. And even certain things that he said later in the interview, I felt like it was a bit projecting, because at the end of the day, we are getting a real reaction from somebody who was actually abused as a child, and someone who had their faith in somebody dismantled and destroyed. So when, you know, I'm comfortable with people in the chat saying how you feel. A lot of people were frustrated because they felt like he was evasive in questions. You guys know me. I had a full range of questions, and a lot he chose not to answer. For me, this was reality. This is not a cut and dry, black and white type situation where you have somebody who is willing to just spill out all the tea on Eddie Long. What we saw was a person who is still in flux. He is still healing. And I want him to sell as many books as possible, because I feel like victims should be paid for their pain. Period. And I read you guys a few days before I did that interview. I read you guys all of the allegations. So in that, if you want to know what those boys experienced at the hands of Eddie Long allegedly, it's all out there. I read the actual court case. So Queen Sheba, I see you in here now. Coco was next, and I definitely want to hear from you, being somebody who follows. Thanks for coming up.
Hey, Mims. It's so good being up here. I adore Mims. Been following him from day one.
Day one.
Day one.
Coco's been here since day one. Windmilling for me in the chats. What's up, Coco?
So proud of you. So I don't know, any of the pastors, or I'm not a member of the churches up for discussion, but I grew up in the church. My dad was a head pastor for 27 years. I'm still currently a member of the church. And so there's a lot of layers here that have been discussed, and just want to unpack as far as number one, anyone who is in the leadership of the church and gets a joy out of anyone worshiping them or deifying them, that's the antithesis of the fundamentals of our faith. And so that's something that needs to be checked in and of itself. And as far as the church itself, the role of members of the church is to call out somebody. So, and that's consistent, but I think there definitely is a time of reckoning that's happening right now where a lot of people are being called out, and rightly so. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's something that should happen more often. And so there's different layers to this, right? As far as what's appropriate given your role and leadership in the church. And so if you are not living a life that is up to being an example for others that are in your membership, maybe that's room to step down. If you're not being authentic to your faith, And the fundamentals of that, that's a cause to step down. There's different reasons to call out people who are in leadership of the church. And so I've been fortunate enough, to have people who have been in leadership in churches that I've attended where they're solid. There's nothing to question. There's no accusations. There's no controversy. There's nothing. And you really need to make that choice as you learn about God and are attempting to be in leadership to say, am I really appointed to be in this leadership role or not? Now, when it comes to nefarious activities as far as grooming, harassment, anything having to do with children, that's something that you need to immediately call that out and get law enforcement involved. There's no covering up of anything. That's disgusting. And so that is something that it's part of the call of the church. So there's different layers to this, but when it's something of that nature, you get the law enforcement involved and you hold people accountable. And so a lot of the accusations that have been thrown, we don't know what's going on. We don't know the truth. We haven't seen concrete evidence, and we need to let things play out in the courts or the system. But a lot of people who are being called out, even those that are doing some of the calling out, they were called out recently. So there are some people like Larry Reed, for example. There were things that were called out about him recently. So it's just, we need to be mindful of who you're listening to, who's saying it, and what integrity they have as a person. That I have issues with some of the mega churches and these leaders of mega churches. They're very, very wealthy. When you look at the fundamentals of our faith, that's not really what God has called us to do. And so I'm even mindful of people like that. I don't think that they are speaking the truth and the true word of God, a lot of them. And so I question, why are you hanging out with the likes of Diddy? So even if none of this is true, why are you hanging out with the likes of Diddy? That has nothing to do with our faith. It's weird. So we need to be honest about not only just the truly nefarious acts that are going on and these accusations, and hopefully we get to the bottom of that and the truth, but these other acts where you're not really, you need to question, are you a true leader of the word? Because your life doesn't equate to what we really are called to do. And I'm not afraid to step away or walk away from someone who isn't living the way that they're supposed to live. I recall back in the day, my parents, there was a minister back in the day who's now deceased, and he was cheating on his wife and everything. Call him out. Leave the church. Why are we afraid to stand up for things that aren't truly part of the fundamentals of our faith? And that's what I, and that's what I felt.
Coco, can I say something? I wish that we were able to have your energy in my day. You sound very young. And
I'm
by
not as
very
young.
young, I mean in your 30s.
No.
You're younger?
No, I'm in my 40s.
Oh, girl, you sound good. Okay. But I wish that we were able to have that
picture.
that same energy then. And we're not that far apart. But there is, especially when you get to that mega church level, or that even that semi mega church level, where you got 5,000-6,000, you know what I'm saying? For 1,000 to 5, there's a point there where there starts to be this kind of covering, kind of like the same you find with police officers and with doctors and all of that, is that they cover for each other. And I don't think that they necessarily set out to be celebrity or set out to be worshipped. I think it just kind of started happening as you get on television. And then I still have probably about 10 of T.D. Jakes' books in my other living room. I've been to so many of his Women Thou Art Loosed. They were powerful.
And packed.
Yes, and they were impactful. So I'm not going to ever sit here and say that I was not impacted by that man's ministry, because I was. But the celebrity, it kind of comes in a very insidious way.
It does.
So I'm very glad that you had, and that your father, that your father ran the church the way they did. But I've also been in small churches where there was incestuous relationships going on, where there was a lot of things happening, and it was never called out.
Absolutely. And that's unfortunate because in this day and age, the perpetuation of the and not calling it out has led to where we are now. And so that's unfortunate.
Absolutely.
I do want to have the distinction though, because I feel like there is an attack on the Black church. And so we also want to be mindful of, because if it was not for the Black church, I feel that the African American community, those are descendants of slaves, would not be as far as we were if had it not been for the Black church and being a centrifuge of coming together, discussing the issues of our people, especially in different generations. We would not be where we are in this country. And so I want to be mindful of not making generalizations across and sweeping, because
And
there are
aligning
so
politics.
many
Don't
good
forget that.
churches.
Don't
There's
forget
so
that.
many good churches out there, solid churches where you can grow. But it's unfortunate that there's a bad reputation out there. But there's so many good churches where you can grow, where it can build your families up, where there's social services. And it's unfortunate that you don't hear about that, but you hear about the celebrity preachers, the mega churches, or the accusations that come up in these instances, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but honey,
And
that's why we had the cover up. Because unfortunately, trust me, I've been in white church just as long as I've been in Black church, probably longer. So, and I even last night I talked about, most of the ministers I talked about last night were white. So they've had their history, and they still have some history going on. Okay. We have to be able to call ourselves out and deal with this without saying, well, we can't really, you know what I'm saying? Like, without feeling that there's this attack on something, not when we're a long overdue rooting out of a nasty cancer that's been within the church period, but then within our church.
Queen Cuba, I want you
think
to
it's
be able to
something
jump.
that permeated in society in general that we need to call out, because certain things as far as HT, I don't want to say the movement of people and things like that. I think it's a general calling out.
At this point, you can say human trafficking. I don't think this one's
Mims is like, it's gone.
It's okay.
Mims, I'm gonna drop down, okay, hon? Thank you
coming
so
up.
much. Thank you guys. I love everybody. Thank you.
And then Queen Chiba, I definitely want you to jump in. I want to hear your stance.
Yeah, so thank you, ma'am. So I'm not going to be long. There's a lot that was said, and I think everybody has awesome points. I don't think. Let me just level set. I am not a member of the Potter's House, but I am a devout follower of T.D. Jakes by way of being a teen. Being a teen and discovering one of his first books, which was called Daddy Loves His Girls, his little girls, or Daddy Loves His Girls. And I was 18 years old in college when I discovered that book. And that's well before therapy, mental health movements were introduced, right? And even when they were, it wasn't something that the Black community had to buy in. It was still a taboo subject. We didn't talk about it. And whenever you felt what you felt and you behaved the way you behaved, you were bad, you were just fast or whatever. And that book really changed my life as a young woman. And it ministered to, not even talked about, it ministered to women that did not have a connection with fathers, that did not have a father present in the home. And that's how I came by way to even know a T.D. Jakes. So I wanted to level set with that, okay? Not because I was a member of the church. And by then, I don't even think he had the Potter's House, or maybe he was just being introduced to the Dallas market, which has now become home to the Potter's House. And when someone said that the Black church is under attack, I have to respectfully disagree, because I don't believe God is a respecter of persons by way of white, Black, and this and that. I think we war against principalities, right, wrong, darkness, and light. I think what's starting to happen in the world that we're in 2024 is bad behaviors of men and women, both in high and low places, are being revealed. And if you're black, you're black. If you're white, you're white. If you're a man, you're a man. If you're in a black church, you're in a black church. And we have to stop the notion of utilizing the defense of black this and black that, because we utilize that to silence a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Because there's this unspoken code of holding the line because we're black, even at your own sacrifice. Right. And when we're talking about the sexual misbehaviors in the church, let's not start in the church. Let's start in the community with little black boys and little black girls that are being sexually molested every day, all day. But we don't talk about it because you don't tell and you don't talk about the business of what goes on in this household. Right. And when I think about the likes of a TD Jakes, I have fell down from the panel. I'm sorry I didn't get everybody's name. I've had nothing but positive experiences from attending his conferences, reading his books, and the Bible says, "In all things, test the spirit." So I feel like he has a history, or he has a history of positive outcomes of changing people's lives. That does not mean he hasn't done anything, but for me, I need hardcore proof because it doesn't sit right in my spirit to carry the ball across the finish line like I would it with anything else, with the Diddy or anybody else, where I could sit back 10 years ago and say, I see it, I saw it, I know it. Didn't feel right then, don't feel right now. I'm surprised nobody ever came forward. And just because somebody's saying it doesn't mean that it's true. And I think we all have to pause. I did. Now I'm gonna have to be honest. I think it was 2 years ago, and I saw him in a picture with P. Diddy. And I said, what is TD Jakes doing in a picture, a photo, or at a party with P. Diddy? But if you listen to all of his teachings, he teach about how Christians don't believe in associating themselves with those outside of their circle. Did I lose my
We can hear you.
I think.
No,
I'm
we
sorry.
can
I
definitely
wanted
hear you.
or can you hear me?
We
I
can hear
wanted
you.
to jump in.
We can hear
Queen
you.
Sheba, I respect everything that you said, and also Coco, I really love what you said. Queen Sheba, I like what you said in regards to, it doesn't matter what color you are. I think the big thing that's missing here is, I would say, all parties involved, they do not have the fear of God. That's the problem. I believe a man like TD Jakes has been anointed to do all these wonderful things in the books and all that, but he can also be a deviant. And I think that's why people get their heart broken, because they look at somebody like him who has done quite a bit of great work, but then at the same token, he could be that same guy that people are accusing him of. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of, and I'm going to say church people.
Hold on. Is this Vanessa?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second, Vanessa. Queen Sheba, were you done with your thought?
I'm here.
Can you?
No, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Queen Sheba.
That's okay. That's okay.
I thought she was done.
No, I just took a pause because my audio, I felt like my audio paused for a second. Okay. Yes, he can. We all can. But until you see it, until you hear it. Hold on. Pause. There are a lot of people that do a lot of things. Listen, we only see what we want to see, and we miss what we want to miss. But I hesitate, me personally. Everybody else can do what they want. Because of my experiences and my outcomes with not necessarily with the direct association with him, but the direct association with his ministry, I pause. Not because I think he's God, but I pause because I saw no hints and clues of that. And I feel like I can trust my own intuition when it comes to people. I don't care if you're a celebrity. I don't care if you're my boss. I don't care if you're my father. Nobody get a pass but God in my life.
Exactly.
I don't measure people by who they are, what they make. And somebody else said, I think large churches, when they get too large, and they start at this number and they get too large, and then maybe they start to buy into their own fandom. I think that's crazy. I think that's a crazy notion because we all start on the entry level.
But the temptation,
hold on. But who are we to crucify success? You excel in your career. Do you want to be a secretary forever, or do you have more ambitious goals?
All due respect, the church is not a business, but it's treated like one, and that's one of the
it has nothing to do with business, but it has to do
number one problem.
It has. It's not a business, but it's an expansion. It's an expansion. But if you could pause and let me speak, if you could pause and let me finish, I promise I'll give the mic back to you. I promise. It's not. It has nothing to do with being a business, but it's an expansion of casting a net to save souls. So you can say what you want to say, and we can go back and forth and debate technicalities all day. But a church is here to expand and grow. The more we expand, the further the reach goes. You want, I mean, we call it a business, a church, whatever. It's like whatever argument you need to satisfy you, that's what I'm going to grasp for. That's what you're going to grasp for. It's like grasping for straws. Whatever you're looking to debate, that's what you're going to pull for. For me, I hesitate to crucify him because I have not seen any solid, robust, foundational proof of him violating any minor.
Who's breathing? I'm sorry. Hold on. No. Who is breathing into the mic? I have tried to keep a straight face.
I don't know who that is.
This conversation is very deep. This is what we wanted, a full body, robust conversation. But you have to stop breathing into the mic. Well, everybody just mute if you're not talking.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Really, really quickly, let Vanessa respond to Queen Sheba, and then sure, is that Dennis not the menace?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. We'll just let Vanessa.
I just want to read back because I think.
Yeah, I'm not debating. I think that God has already exposed what's going on. People can go ahead and keep deifying these people, and they're going to get their feelings hurt. At the end of the day, I don't care what man says. We should really care what God says. And I think I know God has the mic right now, and he definitely has the camera. And he's pointing it on this disgrace in the white and black church. So one thing I agree with Queen, it is not just the black church. It is the church in general. The problem is nobody has a fear of God, because if they did, they wouldn't do the things that they did. That's number one. Number two, there is no one there to protect the young people. And that's the tragedy. And that is why God is spotlighting it. So you're going to have a decision. All three entities. Number one, pastors, this is happening for them to take a look at themselves. When they see big congregations like the TD Jakes, whether he's guilty or not, I'm not here to debate that because I don't belong to that church. What I am saying is Stevie Wonder can see that God is exposing this, and God does things with a purpose. He is exposing this for a reason. I don't care whose side you're on and not. He is exposing it so pastors can open their eyes and check themselves. If they are being less than pastoral, they need to sit down. We all are guilty of sin, but we all don't head up churches. And if you are in a leadership position and you cannot control yourself, whatever your sin is, then you need to sit down. And the reason why they don't sit down is because they do treat it like a business, because it pays their bills and they pass it on to their children. God is supposed to anoint pastors to do what they're supposed to do. They do treat it like a business, because if I had a chicken joint and I'm getting older, I'm going to pass it to my daughters. That's what they do with the church. That's not what you're supposed to do with the church. Now,
what is he guilty of?
Let me finish. Number two, the congregation, this is a time for the congregation to open their eyes and look closely at those that they deify. And last but not least, this is an opportunity for the innocent ones, people under 18, being groomed for their parents to take a look closely at the church. This is a learning period. And if we all can't see that, we're blind. So again, I'm not on here saying TD Jakes did it or not. I'm on here saying this is not a coincidence that this, and people keep saying it's a season where God is exposing all of this, and we're supposed to look and learn from it. Everybody's supposed to learn from this. And if they don't, God will deal with it. He will. And I believe he dealt with Eddie Long. I'm going to say that because young boys were hurt because nobody believed them. And they had people like worshipers that said Eddie Long. I used to listen to Eddie Long, and that man could preach. And that's the problem. They do have the anointing to do these things, but they still are capable of doing other things. And I can name several people in the Bible that were anointed and then they turned. This is not abnormal. That's why God warns us never to worship man. He said man is wicked and desperately wicked. He says that. So it's possible that somebody can be anointed and do great things for the church and for the community and also be a deviant. Surprise, surprise. It happened all through the Bible if you know your Bible. It happened to Saul. It happened to I'm trying to think of the other. He was one of the richest men and he ended up turning to women who worship other gods and God used him greatly. But he turned in the end. This is not new. There's nothing new under the sun. So all I'm saying, I'm never going to debate if TD Jakes did it or not, or any other pastor. Like you said, people have their reasons why they love these pastors, but I'm telling you, God is opening the eyes of everybody. He's revealing, and you gotta pay attention. And if you don't, then you're going to get your reward. Because if you don't fear God and you rather deify these people, then that's why, unfortunately, these young boys and girls get hurt because people deify these men and women. But I'm just gonna drop down, Mims. I thank you for having this conversation. I really, really do, because it's
Well,
like
I appreciate
it's all near
all
and
of you
dear
guys.
close to us, and we're all emotional. I'm not really emotional. I just think I personally think this is a great time. I believe God is doing this. He is behind it because he wants his people to wake up. Period. So that's all I have to say. But thank you.
I appreciate you coming up, and that was the point of having these kind of conversations. I know you guys wanted to do it. I'm glad that we have been able to remain respectful towards one another because emotions are high, and technically emotions should be high because a lot of people are heavily involved in the church. A lot of people are not heavily involved in the church and are happy to see people exposed in this way to prevent them from doing it to other people. So I believe Dennis was next.
First, I want to thank you so much for starting this conversation. I'm gonna make it real short. So, and this is very hard for me, but my story is out on social media. If you go to King Jive's page, he's another content creator. He did my family story. Make a long story on my family, or even before that, my I faced something with my one of my kids. They had get raped. If I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say that word.
Well, yeah, let's try the R word just to.
Okay, I'm sorry, the R word, and I really took it really hard because in my family, that's all we have dealt with was the L word and the R word. And
Dennis, not to interrupt, were they taken advantage of by someone in the church?
yeah, my well, not my daughter. He was a part of the church, but the young guy wasn't like a member. But when she went through that, I was going to therapy and it really broke me. And make a long story short, I was telling my family that I was in, this was back during Corona. I was telling them that I was in the midst of writing a film about our family because I think it's time. I had to get a vision one night. And before all this broke loose, God was telling me, or the Holy Spirit was telling me that it's time for us, not just the Black people, not just church, but it's time for the world to talk about this. And the reason why it's time for the world to talk about this, because if everybody go back in your minds, when we became free, when we went through the civil rights, Black people have never had the time to really dive in on what they've been through. So our fathers, when they used to rape our daughters and all that and everything, and the white people you used to, I'm sorry, rape. I can't say rape. I mean our word, that was never dealt with. After slavery time and after
Okay.
the civil rights.
Dennis, so just to kind of drill down,
Yeah.
what you're saying is
So
there were people in your family who were taken advantage of. So
so
what
what
you're
so
Mhm.
what I'm what I'm saying, um I went to my family, told them I was doing a film. We had a Zoom call. I recorded the Zoom call and I put the Zoom call on King Jives, and we basically confronted our father for the our word to my sisters. I'm the youngest of 16. He did the R word to all my sisters but one, and I was L word by my brother, but he's no longer here. And so when I bought that to
What is the
the
L
platform, oh, I'm sorry, when little boys get not raped, but they, I mean, not the R word, but they call it what else?
You were molested?
Yes,
No.
and
Oh.
I said the L word. I'm sorry because I'm so emotional. But
Oh,
make a long story short,
okay. Okay.
um, when I put that out there, I went through a lot. Not so the people that didn't know us, but in our city, it went viral because they did not know my father did that. So I'm just saying it is really time for us to heal. It's time for the black people to heal because we never did heal coming from what we came from. And so yes, this is real. Yes, my family is a church going family. And even when the church that I'm a part of, when the leaders found out about what took place, one of the leaders said, long as they don't have the right, they don't have no right of suing us, I'm fine. But they never did come up and talk about it. So I really think it's time for the church to really talk
The
about.
leader, Dennis, so the leaders of the church said as long as nobody can sue us. But why would you sue the church if your father was the one who violated your sister?
Because if he's an elder or a pastor and they knew about it, then that's grounds of what's name. And so many people have done it because the church sit by and they didn't do it, or when they found out there was that church was up under that umbrella and they could sue that church. Is so many people did it, and I just don't want to call that church out. But if y'all Google some of these churches, these religions, it's out there. It's so many pastors that have lawsuits that's out there on the internet. You can find it's over probably 1 million pastors. So yes, it is real, and yes, it is really time for us to talk about this.
Okay, I mean, I want to first say I'm really sorry that you and your family went through that. That's actually heartbreaking to hear. And are you guys in therapy, or have you taken the steps to kind of heal from what you went through at the hands of your father?
I'm 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 the only one that I know of that's doing therapy because it affected me and what affected me the most, that I couldn't have the conversation with my church or my family. They just wanted just sweep it up under the rug. And even my nieces and nephews, they was trying to put a lawsuit against me for talking about it because they felt they didn't want the world to know what our family been through and it's hurting them. But I was like, this is our story and it's time to talk about it.
How do you, as somebody who was in the church and now you feel betrayed by the church, are you still able to attend other churches, or
No,
how do you
no.
feel now about organized religion?
Well, I really do feel like, first of all, the first question, no, I do not attend church. I was attending the Potter House and another church online, but it really took my heart because I'm really still praying for TDJs, and I hope all this is not true. But you guys, 9 times out of 10, when somebody come up and say they was taking advantage, they're not lying. People don't lie about. That's one thing people don't lie about. Yes, it was 10% people that lies about it, but 9 times out of 10, when people say somebody was touched, there was touch.
Wow. Again, I'm really, really sorry. I think everybody in the chat, you have such a strong endurance level to deal with everything that you've been through, to still speak truth to power against your family and the church. I'm really sorry that you went through that.
I just want to thank you again for just starting the conversation, because I think we need to start all the time, because and not just have it, really just try to get these young people help, because and let me tell you, out of everything, and I know TD Jake's son and what he's been through, and out of everything, I pray for him, because if you really look at it, his two sons wasn't on that stage when he said all that. His son that had a lot of backlash of what he did, and so my prayer is really going out towards him, that he's okay.
All right.
So
thank you so much for sharing, Dennis. Thank you for
thank y'all.
I think
I'm
Ayana
gonna
was
drop
next.
down real quick, Mims, but watch your buzzwords. I'm a content creator. Let me just tell you what happened on your YouTube. I just heard a huge static and it dropped me. I was unmuted. I don't know if they thought I was saying the Greek word, but just be very careful with people using buzzwords on your channel. So
I probably
weird.
won't monetize this one.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and I'm gonna drop down. I just want to make sure you're good to go as a content creator.
Thank you for coming up, Queen Sheba. I mean, this is the conversation that I wanted to have, because there are so many people in my DMs who I have Diddy people who are mad at me. I got, of course, well, no, the TD Jakes people for the most part have kind of understood, and Long people were upset with me. Like, I get it from all places, but I wanted to give people the ability to come up and kind of like state your piece, whether you agree with people being exposed or not. So I definitely appreciate you coming up.
I think you're doing a great job. I think the panelists job and just kind of outlining their perspective and their viewpoints. I know some of them, it may be their first time. It's never personal. It's just sometimes it comes across really passionate by way of virtual cameras or whatever, but just watch your buzzwords, you guys, because we want to make sure that we keep Mims safe from an algorithm standpoint, and that YouTube is not picking up any words that would get him flagged. That's it.
Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely. You all have a good night. I'll be in the chat.
Before you leave, Queen Sheba is a content creator. So is Heart of Inspiration, guys. So if you liked what they were saying, they definitely have their own shows where I actually watch both of them. So
thank you.
And I know Queen Sheba's gonna have a lot to say about this Martell.
I'm still marinating. I'm letting the Lord work with me on that, because I don't want to come with a lot of fire and I want to come with a lot of educational components. So I'm gonna see. We'll see. But I'm gonna be tapped in, because this is a good conversation you're doing. So let me fall down and learn and listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching Tasha's uncensored stuff.
Ciao. Okay.
But thank you for coming up, Queen Sheba.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Ayana, you were next.
Hi, everyone. Mims, thank you so much for this discussion, because I definitely think this discussion is something that's needed for the Black community as a whole, not just the Black faith community or church community or spirituality community. This is something that actually runs rampant, but like mental health and other things becomes like a taboo subject, particularly in the family, in the community, and also in the church versus the community. I want to just touch base and answer your question that you posed for this topic. Has the discussion about TD Jakes and others gone too far? Yes and no. I say yes, because a lot of times what I'm seeing now, because to Sheba's point, we don't really have any hard evidence of anything aside from the picture that Larry Reed dropped just to kind of tease us. And I'm going to touch on that real quick as well. I think yes, because it's fanning the flames.
Not that
And
big.
fanning the flames is causing a lot of hurt and confusion where
Mhm.
people are already dealing with church hurt, and maybe someone was being touched by TD Jakes as they were by Eddie Long. I'm in Atlanta. I was a member of a church as well, a high profile church here, and my pastor at the time had some corruption going on, not like that, but it was just the Eddie Long thing just really just kind of almost destroyed the entire church community here in Atlanta because he touched so many different ministries and so many people listened to his teachings and so forth. And even in that case, two or more things can be true. Gifts come without repentance. So a person can be a great orator, a great pastor, a great speaker, and even a great leader, but power still can corrupt even the people that start out with the best intentions. And so I think with the no part of it is that it's leading to a cleansing. It's making us all have conversations like what we're having here, where we're having to look at ourselves. And again, I know you probably have some white, you likely have some white and Caucasian and other nationalities listening as well, other races listening as well. But in the Black community, we still do have that whole thing. What goes on in this house stays in this house, which is also another form of grooming in terms of bullying. So it's like don't tell what's going on with you. So you have children that won't tell when they go to school about what's going on in the house or what might have happened in the church on Sunday when they get to school on Monday because we've been told to keep quiet. And then you have situations where, oh, don't mess with God's anointed because then there's a punishment. You're not supposed to question your pastor, but the word of God says search the scriptures. The word of God tells you to test what you've been taught so you can be, studied and rightly divide the word of truth yourself. Because I think it was not Coco, but the other young lady that was on camera, people aren't studying their Bible. They aren't, reading their word. So that's a whole nother thing. A lot of times people rely on the word of the pastor and the ministers and the leadership, but don't necessarily study for themselves Monday through Saturday. And then Sunday, they're just going to church, just listening to the pastor, getting excited, because the truth of the matter is for the Black family and the Black culture, church is a very emotional thing. It's not just spiritual, it's very emotional as well. That's why you have folks falling out when they don't really need to be falling out because they ain't really feeling nothing. I think you had one of the little where the guy was falling back on the bench. You know I'm telling the truth.
You know, I do have that. He might have been getting
And then finally to touch on Larry Reed. I watch Larry Reed, but there's something about him that is not sitting quite well with me, and that goes back to fanning the flames. One, if someone comes to you in confidence and shares their story, you ask people to come forward, share their story relative to Manassas, Prophet Manassas, right? Then you turn around and you admittedly called TD Jakes' ministry to give them a heads up. Okay. Now you've broken a confidence and a trust. Then you turn around and do another video, another live or whatever, and then you are giving them a warning that it's going to drop on a certain day. I question not you, Mims, but I question his sincerity in this process. That's the part that I'm struggling with. As someone who I've listened to TD Jakes, I had great respect for TD Jakes, and a lot of other pastors. But I also grew up during the time of Jimmy Swaggart, and Jimmy Swaggart fell off the boat plenty of times. You know what I'm saying? We had Jimmy and Tammy Faye Baker. So I know that, look, people, again, power corrupts. Power, people can become power drunk. It doesn't matter because they're in the church and they're supposed to be leading sheep and leading God's people. It doesn't matter. People will still do what is in them to do, So it's just something about that I find very problematic. Because if I went to somebody and said, here's my truth, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do, and then I find out later on they don't went and called Jim Bob and told Jim Bob what I said Jim Bob did to me, well, you don't have to hear from me again. And also it will likely make me shut down.
In all fairness, because I don't know all the specifics, I can't watch every video all the time. What if the person is looking for a go-between? You know what I mean? Maybe they're not, because they're not going to the police, they're going to Larry Reed. So maybe they're looking for a go-between to the Potter's house. I'm not sure. I've not heard them really describe in depth why they specifically called Larry. I believe he said that one of them wanted to get in touch with Manasseh to get in on the lawsuit.
But can I speak to that, please?
Sure.
Hi, my name is Lakeisha. This is my first time up here. I was not supposed to say my name, but I'm trying to be in the background, so I didn't interrupt. Thank you. So I just want to speak to let me give a little bit of background first. So I was in the church ever since I was about 19 years old. I have been a part of a big ministry that had a scandal, really big scandal that was all over the news. I won't say the names, but I was really close.
You never tell Lakeisha. I'm just playing. You don't have to tell. I'm just playing.
I won't. But I was really close to that pastor. Like really, really close to him. I considered him my father. Is nothing in my eye. I've never seen him do anything that was inappropriate. Not questioning what happened. I know that happened, but I'm just saying that I understand how it feels to be in a ministry where something scandalous happens. So I wanted to give that background first, and I'm going to come back to that. But speaking to the thing with Larry, I've been following Larry probably since 2017. Larry wants to be able to expose the things that people won't talk about, but at the same time, he also want to bridge the gap, like Mim says. He want to bridge the gap so that they can have a conversation and heal it, so it doesn't come to the public eye. But if somebody is hiding something like pastor is not basically providing for his child, then Larry is going to expose that. I don't think that he is maliciously doing anything. I don't know Larry personally, but I know him from a distance. So I just want to say that I don't think that I personally, honestly, wholeheartedly don't think that Larry is doing it maliciously.
Q, let me ask this question. Because I didn't feel maliciousness at all. And when I was watching him, the times I watched several of them over the past few weeks, and like just binging them, actually just trying to kind of put some things together in my mind. If he wants to bridge the gap, and I think this goes back to the issue I have with Christian Keys as well. If it's about exposing an issue, why encourage them? Now, they don't have to come out to me or anyone else, but why try to get it taken care of or handled under the cover? Because it's still a cover up of a corruption. And we can't say on the one hand that if a secular person doesn't come out, it's a money grab, or if they come out and they just take a check, it's a money grab, right? And not saying that's what you said. We can't not want the church to be exposed because when it needs to be exposed. You understand what I'm saying? Because I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. I think this is a cleansing. I do agree that this is likely a God cleansing of the church. People are looking at it as just being a cleansing of leadership, but he's cleansing from the top down and the bottom up. Because we also got to look at ourselves too.
I do agree with that. I do think there is a cleansing that's going on. And I think that here's the thing about a sore, just speaking, about sores in general, in order for a sore to heal, it has to be exposed to air. So the same thing with anything spiritually, if something is corrupting or something is infected, it has to be exposed in order to heal. So I think that's what's going on. However, I don't think that it's a money grab. I think that it is either you deal with this or I'm going to let everybody know so that somebody else don't fall in the same trap. That's just personally what I believe.
Okay, but with not falling in the so handle this so no one else knows, or I'm going to expose it so no one else falls in the same trap. The only way another person's not going to fall in the same trap, though, is if it's exposed. So if I can, let's take I'm me and my siblings, right? I go out and do something. I don't want mama to know about it because I'm gonna get in trouble. But my sibling knows. My sibling says, you need to drop me $10, right? So now I get them $10, they're gonna keep their mouth closed. So then mama will never know, right? It's a small thing, but it's a similar thing. Because if handle this under the table so nobody else has to know, or I'm gonna expose it so nobody else gets hurt. Is the issue to keep people from getting hurt, or is the issue to get a check?
Either way, honestly, for me, expose it, but at the same time, expose it for somebody to heal, not expose it for the scandalousness of it all. I don't really care about that amount. But what I do think, just being a part of a ministry that's happened to, it's painful and it's traumatic. Like, especially when your beliefs. And I was young. I was 20. How old was I at the time? I was 26, 25, 26 when this happened. And you have all of your zealousness for God, all your faith for the people who are considered your leaders, and then you allow, or that type of thing happens, is devastating. So while we're talking about these situations, I think we do need to take into consideration when people are passionate about it, that maybe their faith was shaken a little bit, and that's not a good place to be in. So I think that I don't mind, like I said, I think the exposure is necessary, but I think there's a level of compassion that has to come that hasn't been, especially in these YouTube streets. People are being ruthless because they've been hurt by the church. And I understand you've been hurt. Heal that. But before you heal that and then come talk about it. But if you don't heal that, then I need you to be quiet until you and stop bleeding all over these streets. That's just
right, because it's church PTSD.
Right.
A lot of people are walking around here with church PTSD in some form or another, whether it be essay, whether it be financial, whether it just be like this general offense because somebody just decided to be a mean church member or whatever. A lot of people are walking around with that. And
I want to say something when you finish.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, jump in, because guys, I have a flight to catch at I have to be up at 3 a.m. So
do you mind if I have been sitting up here listening,
I
have not
want to
spoken.
say something coming from a victim standpoint when she said heal and then come back. An alcoholic is an alcoholic. Will always be an alcoholic. So a victim will constantly heal. It's no ending to it. So you can manage it, you can.
Oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Really, really quickly. Coco Nicole is currently in LA. If anybody else is in LA, there is a 4.4 magnitude earthquake happening right now. So if you need to take cover, go ahead and take cover. Just bring your phone so you can keep listening to us. I'm just playing. Coco, be safe, and anybody else in LA, be safe. Because they said it's 4.4 and it's happening like right now.
Wow.
But please continue. I'm sorry to interrupt. People were asking what was going on. That's what's going on.
So yeah, so from a victim standpoint, from a person who's been M, I'm 42 years old. That happened when I was 8, 10, 12. So, healing will continue. When you have something like that happens, it's just, especially at certain levels, it's a different healing process. You will always be healing. It's another ending.
I just want to Jay, I'm sorry. I understand that. I've also been M'd.
Hold on. Like, and for that moment, we got to let him finish specifically what he's saying, because he's kind of giving us his life story. You know what I mean? And I'll definitely let you respond to that. Jay, please continue.
Okay. So speaking on a religion aspect of it, I been in my whole life, my whole family, 90% of my family, I grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses. And if y'all don't know, they are being exposed as well. And my great grandmother, she was baptized at 1932. So my family on both sides has been deeply entrenched in this cult organization, whatever you want to call it. And so they are being exposed right now, not too much in this country, but in other countries. But they have a lot of lawsuits going on right now in this country, but it's not as many is going on. They are getting the right strip of them as being considered as a nonprofit organization to receive money from other countries. You know how you receive money and stuff like that?
Hold on, Jay. So were you taken advantage of by someone in the church?
Of course.
In the church.
And yeah,
So
so
you're
yeah.
speaking to not being able, even at 42, it's something that is still impacting you, is what you're saying.
Of course, so you're gonna so when you become it's like a scar.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have surgery, when you get cut, you're gonna have that imperfection. It's gonna always be there. You get what I'm saying? You just have to deal with it.
I wasn't in any way I was paraphrasing what you were saying.
Yeah. So you're gonna always deal with it. You're gonna always, you create barriers around you. Your emotional barriers. You do not. You limit to yourself. Because of it. It's just what it is.
Were you able to come forward, Jay, with any of them?
So coming forward with it, what do you mean far as legally wise?
No, I mean, were you able to tell your family? Were you
Oh
able?
yes, and that's what I'm saying. How they handle things, they don't handle things outside. They handle things within. So you cannot go to the law enforcement, and the position my father was in, if that couldn't happen. So you have to deal with issues within the organization. If you don't, you're going to get disfellowship. It's just that simple, and or you're going to be knocked down of a position you're in. So any family matters that go in, so this is why this is why they doing child rights right now. In other countries, they are actually petitioning, they're legally, like, the kids don't have rights, because what happens is if you get baptized at a young age, you are held responsible for anything you do wrong. So if you do something wrong, you get disfellowship. And what happens is kids get kicked out their house. So I was out of my house at 15 years old.
Wow.
So, and the rest of my brothers was too. So if you do something wrong, then my father was in a position basically running that church, he can't, his family has to be in order. If his family ain't in order in that household, he got to get kicked, he got to get stepped down. It's just that simple. That's how it works. So for him to keep his position, he has to have his household in order. So in order to have his household in order, you either obey my rules or get out. It's just that simple,
Hello,
And
Mims.
so a lot of things are getting exposed.
I'm sorry. This is OG Patrice, and I've been up here for 30 minutes and haven't said a word. I've been listening. I would just like to speak and say my piece, and then I'll step down. And
I believe I was.
Hold on, give me 1 second. Jay, just like with the other individual, Dennis, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hope that I can only imagine that it is something that you do deal with daily. Have you been able to get into therapy or kind of, work on your path to
So
healing?
fortunately, yes, I have. You know, I do a lot. I daily you learn how to do daily therapy yourself, you know, for a long part, you know, after the beginning part, yes, therapy. But as the years go on, you learn therapy, you know. So you learn how to talk to people. You have a circle of people, you know. You create you know, you create your own network, you
But
know.
you were able to receive therapy.
Of course,
Oh,
over the years, of course.
all right.
Yeah, that was over 20. That was years ago, you know. So
Thank you
yeah,
for sharing. Thank you for sharing your story, Jay.
already.
And my heart really goes out to you, and that was deep. I think technically, if I'm looking, I think speaking from the purple couch was the next person.
Yes. Um, Definitely thank you for having this conversation. And again, yes, Jay, I'm very sorry, but I am glad that we are having this conversation. One thing I was looking at someone's comment, I think it was Jonesy Jones, where she was saying leaders protect each other, and it's like a man's club. And they always say, touch not my anointed. But let me just say this from kind of being on the inside without really saying who I am. Um, a lot of the books are written by a ghostwriter. I know to be a woman ghostwriter. So
A lot of wood book.
some of the books by the person we are talking about.
Oh, you're
Some
talking
of
about
their
T.
books.
Jake's book.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay,
I think
so
you're speaking directly into the mic, so it's giving a little bit of feedback.
okay, can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay, yes. So just
Yeah, but you
keep
got
that.
right back on it.
Oh, really?
When you said, "Can you hear me now?" It was good, and then you got kind of close to the mic again.
Okay. How about there?
Much better.
Okay, so just keep that in mind that several of the books are by ghostwriter. Also, when this kind of came out,
You jump back on the mic.
really, I didn't even move it.
Whenever you're not away, it's perfect. But when you get too close, there's static.
Okay, how about right there?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna try to stay still.
Thank
Okay, so the other thing is that when this broke out, I started getting a lot of text messages and calls and saying, "Wow, you told us about this years ago," and I have, and I did, and now I am very happy that certain things are coming out, and I do believe that, like in the Bible, people said, God said, judgment is He's going to bring judgment to His house first, and so I believe that is what's happening. So many things have been swept under the rug. So many people have been hurt in the process, and it's just grooming is major, but also people have been fleeced as far as their money. Um, it's just a whole big gamut of things that have hurt people, and it needs to be talked about. And the thing is,
Are you speaking in general terms, or are you speaking about the person you won't name?
right,
You're
right.
speaking
From yes, I've seen a lot. It's
Okay.
not what I've heard, it's what I've seen, what I know. And a lot of times I've just basically, because I wanted to get it out of my system, just share it with a lot of family and friends and other people that are in the church, and other people that, let me just say, I was in the ministry, so others in the ministry I have shared with. So to see so many things coming out now, and I believe there will be more, it's a relief, because people, we get caught up in almost like the fame of people. And I always believe that a lot of ministers, they start out with the right intentions, but the power, the fame, the people, praising them and looking up to them, I mean, a lot of them start having what they call adjutants, and they are carrying their Bibles and no, you can't carry your briefcase. I mean, these things just really gets to someone where they start, really feeling they are all that in a bag of chips. And slowly but surely they start thinking that they're above a lot of things and people shouldn't question them, or they can kind of like get away with things.
You're coming from the standpoint of somebody who was not only in the church, but you were also like preaching as well.
Correct. And also I've seen some of my friends who, male friends, who have kind of been swept in, and it's almost like it's like a underground thing going on. And one thing that they do, they tell the young men to have a cover. So what it is that you come in, you go, and you are supposed to get married and have children. And this is supposed to be your cover. But all this other stuff is going on in the background. I mean,
Are you
this is
talking like
literal.
specifically like having a beard as in they are gay? Or are you saying
Exactly.
cheating and everything? If you have a
Exactly.
wife, it covers you if you want to do any kind of dirt. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And then there are some wives who have gone to what they call the higher bishop and complain. And the thing is just, no, you need to just cover him. It's crazy. And some of these wives are just stuck. And because, that's their bread and butter. That's, a lot of them aren't working themselves. So they are stuck. So it's hurting a lot of people on different levels. And I'm just glad that the conversation is out here now, and hopefully people can work through and start the healing.
Wow. Yeah, you came in and definitely and said some stuff. Wow, I was not expecting that. OG Patrice, you're gonna end us out because I gotta go.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been patiently waiting, but I'm a very patient person. And just to kind of piggyback off of what the young lady said with the purple couch icon, I come from not only the church for many, many years. I went to a mega church back in my hometown in Illinois, and I was on the inside, considered one of the VIPs when I was married. And I've also been in the industry of entertainment, music entertainment industry for 30 years, and I've seen a thing or three. Okay, so I do want to say that you are correct. It is to answer Mim's question. I would definitely say that I'm glad that it's being exposed, and I would say it's not. It needs to be exposed even more. So I don't think it's enough. I think it's not enough. I think it's long overdue. And I think that now that people are coming out and talking about their experiences and things of that nature, it is shedding a light. It is an unveiling and a revealing and an exposure that the book of Revelations talk about. I walked away from organized religion almost 20 years ago. Does not mean I don't believe in God, but I saw the hypocrisy of the church act worse than the people that they considered are worldly. And I walked away. I have a best friend that will never be the same because of what she endured in the church and how it was covered up by her family, by the church. So when you see these things and you know these things firsthand, and people like you guys were talking earlier, these people are put on a pedestal. I see it in the music industry from my experience of touring. I have same background and been on many platforms with a lot of famous people. And if I tell y'all some of the people that are just complete a-holes and this and that, you will not believe. It'll blow your mind because you guys put these people on pedestals, same way you do these pastors, where they have these God entities. My ex-husband and I walked away from a mega church years ago because we saw the debauchery and the hypocrisy in the church, and we were considered the VIPs, the one that was paying big money to sit up in the front, because that's what you got to do now. You just can't come to the church anymore and just think you can just sit up front. Now you have to pay for a seat. Like, it's that deep.
Yeah.
They do run it like a business. They run it like a business that's profiting And the only ones that's profiting are the pastors. See, because they want you to be so devoted to tithing and giving your 10%, but when you need to go to them for something, they tell you to go to God or go to Jesus, and go, but you can't go to the church. See, and you have all these mega churches in these communities, especially our communities, meaning Black communities, and they are giving and doing nothing for said community, but taking and taking and taking. They are not building anything. But when it comes to the grooming, the essaying, the graping, the emming of boys and girls in church, it is an epidemic that has been going on for decades. So I am glad it's being talked about. We set and we still revere these people and say, well, like I listened to TD Jakes gaslight his congregation by saying, well, if it is true, all I got to do is pray to God and he'll forgive me. Like it's that easy that you will literally use religion to make an excuse for your actions. That's basically what he gaslighted.
Impression?
Yeah, that's no. Well, no, not my. No, I was saying what he said. Like kind of what he said, but it a lot of these pastors are spiritual narcissists. They are. The bigger that they are put on pedestals and made and created by said people, they become spiritual narcissists. Maybe their heart started out pure in the beginning, but they become totally something else. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. And I wanted to say this to Queen that was up here earlier. I understand about proof and yes, and people are innocent until proven guilty. That is very true. But there are people walking around this earth, just like there are innocent people in prison that have done nothing, and until they get proven by DNA or something that they can get out of prison because they are innocent, there are people that's walking this earth that are guilty. Just because there's no proof doesn't mean they're not innocent. It doesn't mean that they're innocent is what I'm trying to say, just because there's no proof. So the main thing is when you hear a multitude of these people, like the young men that were groomed and essayed for many, many years by Eddie Long and a congregation, it just baffles me of how that man was allowed to still sit on his throne of pastorship until he got sick and left this earth, because people just revered him so much they refused to excommunicate him. And that's a lot of the hypocrisy that goes on in the church. And you just cannot say we can just pray this away and well, God forgive him, he's a man of the club. There's rules to the laws of God as well. There's a wrath that comes with that, but they don't want to talk about that part. And that's the hypocrisy for me that I see going on. I just wanted to say that I'm so glad that this is coming out and being exposed. And I hope many other victims that has been, victims of the TD Jakes of the world and people like them exposed, because they need to be exposed. It's been swept under the rug. What goes on stays on in this house, in this church. We have to stop that. It has destroyed our families. It has caused so many mental health issues within our families and communities, because people they want to continue to silence you, and they punish the victims more than they do the victimizers. It's amazing to me how that happens.
That's what LeGrand was saying. Spencer LeGrand, when I interviewed him, he was pretty much, the church turned their back on him, and he had really found his refuge and solace in the church. So that was like a mind F.
And that's why some do not come forward, because some of them, their families are still in the church and they don't want their families to, get the brunt of them coming out and exposing it. So that's why some don't come forward.
I mean, just look at Scientology and what they do to the victims that come forward. And some of their families are still in Scientology, but their own families turn against them. Their own families help kidnap them, help, intimidate them, help harass them, they have been followed. All kinds of things are going on. And it's in all forms of religion, just not in Christianity. It's happening in Islam and Muslim, in Buddha, like whatever your religion, it has happened. It's been happening for decades. Specifically, within the Black community, though, when I'm looking at how a lot of these mega preachers and these mega churches and these prosperity pimp preaching pastors, they can take your money and take your money. They're not supposed to be living the way they living in these multi-million-dollar mansions and having all of these cars. That is not what God says for them to do with that money. He says to store it up and create more, and within the community to build, to bring people to him as believers, not to keep it for self and be greedy. And then when it's come to show you taxes, you got a problem with that. Joyce Myers of the world and people like them, when it's time to show account of what they doing with this money, they're doing all kinds of other nefarious things, like buying private jets and taking trips with their family. Like, no. Now, I'm not saying that a pastor should not be on some form of a salary, but these mega pastors, to me, you're making millions and millions of dollars in said communities, almost a mega church on every other corner, but they are not giving anything back to these said communities that they're taking from. We don't have any healthy grocery stores, no schools, no systems, no banking systems, no educational systems specifically to help, but you're taking millions of dollars out of these communities and you're giving nothing back. So when I'm giving for my 10% for 20, 30, 40, 50 years of my life, I watched my mother do it. She's still firmly in the church, right? But when she got sick and needed something, they just said, well, go to Jesus and pray. See, they didn't say, well, let us pull together and let us help you. You know who had to help her? Her kids. See, and that's where I have these conversations with my mom, like, where were they? Where were they? You've given 10% faithfully, sometimes shortening your rent, and you on a fixed income, Mom, shortening your light bill. Like, this is what the pressure that these churches put on these people. But where were they when you needed them?
And that's what I was saying. It's about fleecing as well. And a lot of times these big preachers, and they go out, they go into these other churches holding services. They have already made an agreement with that host pastor that I'm going to take up a second offering. So when they get up there and they're like, oh, God told me that you need to plant a seed and come in $1,000 line to $500, that has already been pre-planned. God did not speak to them to do that. I know that for sure.
Hold on. We might have to do a part 2 because I literally do have a 3 a.m.
Okay.
pickup call.
It must be late where you are.
It gives me only a few hours, and I got.
Okay.
I want to say this though. I'm not holding back anymore. I can't. Members, I'm having my birthday party on Friday. If I don't do something tomorrow in my live to do a giveaway, it's happening Friday at my birthday party. You guys, the membership already got a clue of what the answer to the question is going to be. I posted it. That will come out, and maybe I'll go ahead and also give you guys, maybe a non-member or anybody will be up for the Alexander McQueen bracelet. For the people who talked about me giving away a $400 toothbrush, I'm doing it because I want to. Somebody was like, I should have just gave the money. I don't care. I bought this toothbrush. It's going to go to one of my members. It's actually nicer than the toothbrush that I use, but I'm really big on dental health. That's why I did it. And so that party's going to be on Friday. For everybody who was upset with me that I gave away stuff that's like Versace or Alexander McQueen, it's already purchased. So maybe next giveaways, I can look into some Black designers. But for now, everything's already purchased. So no matter what, my birthday party where I'm celebrating me, I will, also be doing a giveaway for you guys. So that'll be Friday. If not tomorrow, I'll be giving away. So make sure to catch my live tomorrow and Friday. because that's when this giveaway happens. I have like a whole bunch of stuff that I bought you guys, and I don't have the space to hold it, and I definitely want somebody to get it. I sent the first winner her prize today, so she should be getting it by Saturday. Thank you guys for being here.
Well, happy birthday, Mims. Happy birthday.
Safe travels. Safe travels.
Thank
Safe
you.
travel. Yeah.
Thank you everybody for coming up, especially the ones who shared their deeply personal stories. I think that everything that you guys said was extremely impactful and extremely heartbreaking. And I hope that you are on a pathway to healing. Remember, my birthday party will be Friday before I go to my birthday dinner. So I look forward to seeing all of you guys there. You guys have a good night. And thank you for sharing.
Good night. You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh,